Tuesday, July 25th, 2023. Mike Schopp, Adam Krautwurst, live in the deep end. Wait, that's still a thing? Live in the deep end is still a thing?
Yes, it is.
It wasn't supposed to be. We drafted on Sunday night with the Goat District guys and Theo and also First and 15 and Nick Kaz. Like, it was a loaded Fantasy Pros draft. The point of tonight was for each of us to, or some of us to stream it and then play them back, talk about, well, actually just sort of, it would look live, but it was Sunday and I messed the whole thing up by trying to go do the show from outside and there were too many bugs and I lost power. So the rust was showing. Anyway, this should be interesting. The draft is over and we will scrutinize not only our picks, but some of the other more notable ones, processing some of the new information we have in fantasy. And really, we have not sat down here in our chairs and done this for about a month, pre-Scott Fishbowl, and then we had a couple weeks off. So glad to be back with you, Mike and Adam. Thanks for watching and listening. Powered by the Player Profiler Network, this is The Deep End.
Yeah, super fired up to be back. Yeah, that draft was a disaster from the get-go. We had like 4 different podcasts live streaming it. And of course, the first pick, the guy on the clock that doesn't show up and they hold the draft up for like 10 minutes, only for the guy not to show up and auto pick Justin Jefferson. Like we could have been off and running, and he doesn't show up till like the sixth round, he or she, I don't know who it is, but yeah, that was, and then I think there was another pause at the 10th pick or the 9th pick.
There was another pause. Yeah, we were 10. And so that did happen a couple of times. The auto pick system in fantasy sports isn't perfect, is it? Like you could even theoretically auto draft an entire team and not do terribly.
Yeah.
So have you ever had an idea for what the proper penalty should be for having to, for running out of time?
Yeah, I don't know. With a live online draft, the hard part about it is like, because if you want the guy that's at the top of the queue and then some guy times out and gets your guy, like, oh my God, like that's the worst.
It happens in almost every underdog draft.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
At least once.
At least once. So, but then it's like, I also don't mind them getting stuck with 8 straight quarterbacks because they didn't they didn't show up either. But that could throw the draft for a loop too. So
it seems fashionably late does apply to fantasy drafts, because if you're late for the 101, who cares? You're sort of the cool guy who comes into the party 15 minutes late and, you look good and everybody's had a couple already and you're ahead.
You know what I wonder too? Like just thinking this through, because I'm looking at the team one and we'll get there. I feel like, and I say this in the most respectful way possible, I feel like when somebody auto drafts, that's like the Chad Schroeder. Like Chad Schroeder just taking all the value. Right. So when you auto draft, it's giving you the ADP. It's giving you the top guy that's left. Like they got George Kittle at the 4-5 turn. Like I think that's pretty good for an auto drafted, team at tight end premium. So like you're always going to get the value. Like you're going to have a team with value drafting, because if any value falls, you're gobbling it up. So
if it's the sort of the slow season like this still is, and this was on Sunday, that's even more true.
Yeah.
Like sometimes if somebody, Kadarius Toney, like that's not a season-ending injury. If it were, and you're drafting tonight, then somebody's getting stuck with Kadarius Toney.
Sure.
But even this is managed, so you could still cut him.
Right.
So in this format, even more true what you're saying. So time of year matters a little bit for that. Sure, yeah. Like the value is always right. Structure takes a back seat. Structure is ignored. Right. I mean, the algorithms are always taking the top guy ADP wise on every site. So. Do we know that?
I don't know for sure. That's a good question for like Alex or Dave or whoever at the different sites, like how it works. I think it's pretty much best player on the top of the board.
It has to be consistent.
Correct.
It does happen, and you are playing against it sometimes. So, in slow drafts, for instance, you have a little bit more time to plan around it.
Yeah.
I think, there are probably times when, I'm trying too hard now, but psychologically you have the guy you want, even if it is just in your queue, and you just let the clock run out, whether that's sort of maybe during the NFL draft, different ways to play it. But not all are considered great form, but none is illegal.
Right. That's right. Should we jump into it? Should we show a little draft board?
So this is the Sunday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Fantasy Pros draft. This is my 9th one of these. That was not the plan.
It never is.
The plan was not to draft 9 the entire offseason.
It never is.
Early on, you and I talked about it several different times in here, in the deep end, by the way.
That's right.
That I thought the rooms were soft because of perhaps because of Best Ball Mania, that so many people are pouring, like we're all trying to ask each other, compare with each other. Are you maxing out the best ball? Are you maxing it out? It's $3,700, right? I mean, 150 teams at $25 each, whatever that comes to. So $3,750.
Yeah.
So like that's 10 or 11 of these. And I felt, I'm not sure I'm right, I felt that this was more beatable. But these are managed teams. People don't want to do as many managed teams. Best ball is easier. You're done after the draft. And so here I am sitting with 9. In fact, I was in Seattle on Friday on a family trip, and it was the end of the trip. We're leaving early in the morning the next day. Everybody's asleep. Guess what? Fantasy Pros.
Bingo.
So, yeah, I mean, this is our 9th one. And because of that, Adam, my main objective was to be different. You're playing against some of the top players we know that are out there. And I thought, if this goes according to Hoyle the whole way, we're just going to fall in the middle. I mean, maybe we'll cash in the league, but you can't win. Thinking of the Fishbowl with all the experts we have in our Fishbowl Buffalo drafts. You can't really win the Scott Fishbowl without some sort of a edge in the room. So I thought the only edge really that made any sense to me was to get a little bit different as early as possible. And we did.
Yeah, no, it was a great idea. And a lot of times, like, when you're picking at the end, we knew we had picked 10 before this started, obviously, a couple hours. And, I was more than happy with Andrews in the second round, but you always make this good point every year is like, well, if we're going to take Andrews in the second, we want to be different. We want to make sure that we get him. So let's just take him at 10. Like his ADP is in this competition, according to Mojo, is
17.
Yep. 17. So round 2, pick 5. So we take him, 5 or 6 picks early, but we make sure that we have him because he's the tight end in that tier, right? So it's not like, they took CeeDee Lamb, we'll take AJ Brown. It's not the same thing. Like your whole draft plan is around, if you want Andrews, you got to take him. And he's in the same tier with a bunch of other receivers that are in the same tier. So if, like we said, we'll get a receiver that we like, or we'll get a receiver in that tier. Let's just go get our tight end. I love Mark Andrews. Talk a little bit about the Ravens offense. I know we haven't talked about them in a while, but where do you see them going?
Well, yes. First of all, what was the worst case scenario for us at 15 after taking Andrews at 10? It was either Bijan, depending on how you want to build it, which would have been fine. That would have been good value, or Waddle for correlation. I mean, there's really no bad play. I watched the Ship Chasers today. I think they recorded yesterday for their main event talking about this very thing. Like, what about Andrews? Pat Kerrane was really sort of pushing the idea, I felt, of Andrews, and I'm watching it going, we just did this on Sunday, and this was the logic. The receivers, Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, Adams, and Waddle, of course, Bijan. Like, I love this play. And Pat was saying he thinks Andrews will land here in terms of ADP.
Yes.
I don't know. He's probably thought about that more than I have, but I feel like he's completely legitimate as a late first round pick.
Well,
what's not to like?
Yeah, and he's going to land here. He's right. He's going to land here because people are who want to do this are going to do what we did. Not, like we're not like making the strategy here. I'm just saying this is, if you want Andrews, take him at 10 instead of waiting and having someone take him at 11 or 12. Because if anybody behind you wants a tight end, they're taking Andrews there. So go get him and take whatever. Unless there's a guy, it depends how many drafts you're doing. Unless you really, really love like a Garrett Wilson and you're afraid he's not going to make it back to you. But it's not even about loving Andrews the player, although that's great. It's about that strategic advantage of having that early elite tight end and how it builds. I mean, it just makes the flow of the draft. Like, you're not reaching for tight end. You're not like worried about tight end. You can take another elite one if you want to, like in the 5th, 6th, like if someone that you love falls, like a Darren Waller or something like that. Like, it just gives you, it opens, the world is your oyster after you get that elite tight end. If
you remember last year, it was really tough to get a top tight end if you drafted early in the
The way
draft
the
position.
ADP fell. Yeah.
Kelsey would go in the middle again last
Yeah.
year, but then everybody else, Andrews, Pitts, Kittle, Hawkinson, it was a little bit out of line drafting them on the left side of this board if you're watching. And as the ship chasing guys demonstrated today on their show, and I had not thought of this when we, made our plan, the right side is that this year, and you can see that in our draft.
Yes.
The next tight end to go in the last quarter or third even of this draft from the 9 to 12 draft positions is Njoku at 801.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that's right for ADP. It probably is pretty close. And, I like him, but it really is. I mean, I've been saying this with you on this show for 3 years now on FFPC drafts. The tight end decision is the biggest decision. And so in terms of the Ravens offense, I love how it looks. I mean, they did probably dress it up, but Bateman is still a question mark. Odell Beckham will always be a question mark. Dobbins is a question mark. They can't have a normal situation ever in Baltimore. Andrews, above everyone else on that offense, is the guy you trust the most. Even Jackson.
Yeah, and Njoku normally goes to the 806, so even that was like a kind of a little. I mean, I don't want to say reach, whatever, because we reached, but I completely agree. And Andrews is really good too. Like he's a great player on a great offense that's going to throw more. Love the Ravens. So I do want to bring this up because I'm that guy this year. Hate the week 13 bye. And I hate it because in this format, it's the first round of the league playoffs. So if you don't get a bye, if you don't have a top 2 seed, you have to win your league to get into the race for $1 million. So the problem, again, I don't mind a week 13 bye. The problem is there's so many of them. And when you start your first round and like us, we started our first 2 rounds with a week 13 bye, you can get caught in a, either, you just throw it away and say, okay, I don't care anymore now. And we have to get a 1 or 2 seed, or you find yourself like every tiebreaker comes down to, well, it's the 13th seed. I just don't like using that up, that week 13 bye. I don't like using it up in the first round, but there's so many of them. You can't even Stephon Diggs, Davante Adams, who we have, Minnesota. Right. I mean, there's just so many of them. So,
this might help you feel a little bit better because it's, of course, a good point. You have slightly better odds of getting into the bye if your top guys have not had their bye week yet through the regular season. So at least we have that going.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, let's break down the first round. So we picked 10th. I was not excited about 10th, but it's fine. Like 10th-ish is what forced me into sort of this idea. Like if we're in the middle, we're hoping for Andrews in round 2, right? I think in terms of him, the draft didn't revolve around him, but I feel like at 10 on down, if not 9, this is the play I want to make. So how did it work out? Pretty traditional first round.
CeeDee Lamb, 103.
Well, that's right. Not that traditional. CeeDee Lamb at 103 was a curveball. Is that something you could get with?
ADP normally 110 for the folks at home. So I'm not on board with it as a if it's your only league type deal. I think, just take him at ADP or take someone that I think is probably going to be better. But so Jackie Moon, I don't know who Jackie Moon is, but I see Jackie Moon all the time in these FFPC drafts. So I'm sure Jackie Moon does a lot of drafts. This is I want to build a different team. I want to build a unique team. I want to get Lamb and Olave because, I mean, there probably are some Lamb Olave teams because normally if Lamb goes at 110 and you like Olave, you can take Olave at 2-3. And that's kind of more likely of the stack that you would find, but you're probably not going to find a Lamb, Olave, Hawkinson team. Maybe he or she's trying to create a unique build to help them in the chase for the $1 million. I can respect it. But to me, you have to be in a lot of drafts to do that. Or you have to really hate McCaffrey, Kelsey, Tyreek, and Cooper Kupp too. Like I would, Cooper Kupp at 7. There it is. The back-to-back champs, Will Wolford, every draft I'm in, gold. They're just straight gold. So, but no,
I have an embarrassing anxious thing about filling these drafts when I've already put it on my calendar and told my family that I have a thing tonight. And so the middle of the day on Sunday, I'm tweeting at Nick and the Go Bills guys. I mean, can't you guys come just jump in here and be Will Wolford 4 or whatever? And then 5 minutes later, Nick's like, yeah, sure, I'm in.
Yeah, of course. Duh. Absolutely.
Of course. Jackie Moon, by the way, the chat will surely point this out to Adam, the Will Ferrell character in Semi-Pro basketball movie, The Flint Tropics. But I doubt Will Ferrell is the actual owner of this team.
Correct. Correct.
I don't like it because, like, your point about the portfolio thing is well taken. That's always true. I liked how Pete the other day, Pete Overzet said how my portfolio is the new excuse for every pick.
That's right.
Week, you know, like
that's right.
I already have 17 of that guy, so I'm not doing it, whether it's true or not. That is definitely right. That's McCaffrey as running back 1 at 4. First and 15, Travis Kelce at 105. I think that's really good.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, their build was a unique one. And as far as, well, not a unique one, it was kind of a different one as far as build. But again, this is podcast Abib Egbatoba. He's won this event back to back. When it was the football guys way back when.
Is that good?
I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty good. Won it back to back years. So he knows what he's doing. But yeah, Travis Kelce at 5. I mean, he could be the 101. I mean, so
he is often in this.
Sure, he is. So yeah, no, great pick.
I would bet Andrews even money to finish higher than Kelce this year, though.
I mean, I think he finished higher than him 2 years ago. Yes,
barely, but yes. Yeah. He broke Kelce's streak of tight end 1. That's right.
Yeah. So that'd be nice to see. I mean, I don't want to go off topic and get a little crazy here, but this Chiefs offense is like, Tony is a disaster, right? I mean, I don't know if I want to get into Tony tonight, but it's just, I want it to happen. I think people want it to. It's just not going to happen. He's just never healthy. He's kind of a head case, whatever. Like they're pointing all these Sky Moore, like outside of Travis Kelce, you're just throwing darts at this receiving core. I think it's going to be Kelce again, like crazy, but who knows? The offense might struggle a little bit. Didn't struggle last year, but we'll see.
I don't even know if he was picked in this draft, but I was already sort of leaning this way. And yesterday on WGR, I spoke with Kansas City radio host Alex Gold, and I listed MVS, Rashee Rice, Tony. We're talking about the Tony injury. All the guys. He's like, well, Richie James. And I think Davis Maddock is on Richie James. I feel like, was he even drafted in this? I was too busy, and this is going to come up, so I might as well be the one to bring it up. After round 8, not picking a single wide receiver that wasn't an Indianapolis Colt. Apparently, I think Peyton Manning is still the quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts in his prime. So we're just going to load up on Colts receivers and other retread running backs and just ignore the position. I do have a defense for it, but, maybe
we'll get there.
Richie James.
Yeah,
we'll get there as long as we get it before 10.
Right.
We'll get there.
Right.
With that in mind, let's do the one other important thing we got to make sure to do. Adam Krautwurst, Mike Schopp here on the deep end, recapping Sunday night's Experts Fantasy Pros Draft. Before we continue, here's a word from our sponsor.
Hey, people always ask me, what's the World Series of Fantasy? What's the Super Bowl of Fantasy? And it's easy. It's the FFPC. Their signature Players Championship has a $6 million prize pool, and their best ball leagues start in February. And they're the answer to so many questions. Hey, what's the best place to get a Dynasty Orphan? Well, you can adopt a Dynasty Orphan at the FFPC right now. There's more orphans at the FFPC than anywhere else on the internet. That's why we partner with them. So if you want to play fantasy football for low, medium, high stakes, you love Dynasty, you love best ball, you love seasonal leagues, all types of fantasy footballers need to go to the FFPC. And remember, use promo code Underworld. Promo code Underworld gets you $25 off your first team. Promo code Underworld, $25 off your first team, no matter what the format is, at the FFPC. Go get it.
I'm curious about, not everybody will see or hear the same sponsorship announcement, but I'm curious about Matt Kelly's shirt there. I couldn't quite read it I am not much for kitschy T-shirts, but I am wearing a shirt tonight actually that violates the principle. It says this actually is my first rodeo.
Oh, that's sharp.
It's because maybe somebody else is wondering what my shirt says. That's what it says. Because it actually is.
Is it?
It's my first rodeo. It's not my first Fantasy Pros draft. It's my 9th. So
this year.
Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, Austin Eckler at 108. Okay. Diggs at 109. Our gambit with Andrews. The thinking, as we've talked about already, we'll get one of these wide receivers that we think are all pretty much the same in terms of value. Bijan Robinson, 11. Could have had him. Could have done it that way. And gambled for Andrews. Didn't want to do that. St. Brown, A.J. Brown at the turn. Garrett Wilson at 202. And then Davante Adams. For us, I think Adams is my favorite of the 4.
Really? Talk to me, because I think Adams is my least favorite of the 4. Talk to me about Adams, because I'm on the Lions offense this year. I'm on Garrett Wilson this year, and all these videos of him and Rodgers lighting up camp, or we knew that was going to happen. But yeah, talk to me about Adams. I mean, are you worried about Garoppolo or just the coaching staff there?
That Rodgers thing is an act. You know it's going to be Randall Cobb when the live bullets.
Rodgers. You hate him. I love.
I mean, I don't, but I like Wilson. Adams is probably the best receiver in the NFL. His teams have not always been good. His quarterbacks have not always been good. The season where Rodgers got hurt, he was still great.
Yeah. And
even last year, he was still pretty great. And so I don't think the Garoppolo thing is too important. And I think they'll be losing all the time. They're my pick to have the worst record in the AFC. So if that happens, if a team is that bad, then you're a little bit at risk. Like last year's Raiders season is kind of close to perfect for us if you want to peak Adams year, because, it's the AFC West. They'll be down a lot.
Yeah.
They play the AFC East also. I don't know. I wouldn't overthink it. I think St. Brown is excellent. A.J. Brown is excellent. They're all pretty close. But Adams is my favorite in that group because, he's just been elite for how many years in a row.
Yeah, no, I get it. The AFC, I was going to make that point against him. The AFC East has 3 of the top, I think, 5 ranked secondaries that I saw. He's going to have a gambit of secondaries and lockdown corners you're going to have to deal with there. But you're right, AFC West, good shootout games, not nearly as good at defenses. Also good weather games from the AFC West as well, which we'll get at the end of the year too, which plays a very important role. All that little stuff comes down to like tiebreakers between guys. So it'll be interesting. I just hope the wheels don't fall off the Raiders, because like you said, they might be the worst team in the NFL, and then sometimes guys hang it up.
Sometimes. Well, would have been fine with any of those 4. Round 2, 6 running backs in the last 10 picks. Names you're familiar with: Chubb, Taylor, Pollard, Henry, Barkley, and Stevenson. No particular concern in this draft about Barkley's status, and I would not have had any. We've sort of thought those contracts will get done. Josh Jacobs goes 301. He's not signed yet, but I think that happens. And then Najee Harris is early at 302, Gibbs at 304. You've seen that a lot in these drafts and underdog drafts, Adam, that pack of running backs, that's 10 within, I think it's 14 picks, give or take, in that range from 204 to 304. And so that is a running back hot zone, I guess.
Yes. And so was it the Pros versus Joes draft where Barkley went in the mid-3rd to a team? Did I see that right? I think
so. Yes, that was last night. Dave Hubbard got Barkley in the mid-3rd. Yes.
What a beautiful
tip.
Although he went, going with like 5 running backs in the first 6 picks. I don't know if I'd have done that, but far be it for me to question Hubbard. He's a stud. But I love this start by Henvin. McCaffrey, Barkley, Gibbs. It's a beautiful start. And he continued. I don't know how deep you want to get. I'll just comment on this team. He continued, elite quarterback, hopefully Justin Fields, and then 5 straight receivers, tight ends stacked with his quarterback. Like, it's just, it all makes sense there. I think Henvin did a really good job. And so, yeah, I'm on the Barkley there. I'm on Jahmyr Gibbs there. I love those picks. I love that area. It's so interesting too. I like to look at, so Jahmyr Gibbs goes off the board as RB12. Higgins gets picked 2 picks after him as wide receiver 14. This is the FFPC. This is how other drafts, you're at the same spot and it's like RB9 and wide receiver like 17. Like it's
Right.
like and the gap gets bigger and bigger and bigger as the draft goes on. So I think that's a beautiful spot. It's a beautiful spot for Higgins. It's a beautiful spot for Gibbs. And I love what Goat District did here too, which is the opposite of what Henvin did, going heavy receiver. But I like the Barkley Gibbs there. I think it's beautiful.
Team 4, Fields in round 4, DJ Moore in 5. That I would say probably worked out. Komet, as you mentioned, in 10. Roshan Johnson in 11. Mooney in 12.
Yeah.
So that's 5 Bears. I feel like the Bears have been a team over the years recently that has thought, you know what, we have too many Bears. And maybe this person, I'm not criticizing, because I think you're trying, especially when it's a little bit more high profile in this group, you're trying to win the
trying to be different
championship. Like it's different, but I don't know. Can you overstack in a league like this, in a tournament like this? What's overdoing it, if there is such a thing?
Yeah, I mean, overdoing. I mean, he's got every player from the Bears, so I don't like that necessarily. And it's not best ball, so like stacking isn't anywhere near as important. But what I will say is, a lot of the hopes that you have for a team like the Bears, they're cheap, so they're cheaper, so they're easier to stack. And if they take that step, if they take that Philly Eagles step, Justin Fields, similar to Jalen Hurts, if they take that, and he's got the quarterback that does it, and the wide receiver 1 that does it, and the tight end, like they're not all going to hit. But if they take that stuff with the other guys that he's got, McCaffrey, Barkley, Gibbs, I mean, that's how you can absolutely smash. And so no one can say that they're not going to do that. But so yeah, I mean, you have to sometimes go all in on these offenses, these cheaper offenses, with the hope that, hey, listen, maybe, this time last year or 2 years ago, people didn't think Jalen Hurts was the answer. And then all of a sudden he's the MVP candidate. So if they get that out of Fields, this team's going to be really, really tough to beat.
It can be tricky to figure out who to start when you have multiple options, weapons from your quarterback's team. Like, that's tough. What you want, I mean, you want all of them to do well, and then that's a good problem to have, I guess. But you want to have it be sort of like, I do this a lot. You draft 2 or 3 guys. We'll see it on our team in terms of Indianapolis, who emerges. And then do you find out that information before it's too late and you've already cut somebody? You want to have, I think, just generally the rookies to be able to hang around toward the playoff weeks if you make it. So like we have a team with Richardson and Josh Downs, and Pierce even is still young. So you just want to you're going to have to cut people, though. That's why, and this is also getting way ahead, but we did a strategy I really like in these earlier Fantasy Pros drafts, which is to draft the veteran running backs who are still free agents. And we drafted Elliott and Fournette, which we'll get to, because like something is going to change there. And if they're just meaningless by week 1, then you move on. Like it doesn't even matter. And there always are new running backs and receivers to sort of pick at. So I feel like we're going to be a team that's going to spend some money on the earlier side because of that. But I'm doing that in every one of these. Just go get Elliott, Fournette, Hunt, maybe Dalvin Cook even, although I don't really like drafting him as much. He's the most expensive too. And then find out, and sometimes you can even get them to land on the team where you've already built stacks.
Yeah. And the good thing about that too is like, if we got Fournette in the 14th round, where is he going to go that he's going to start going way later than that? You know what I mean? Like if he lands in a really good spot, like if a running back gets hurt, God forbid a running back gets hurt for the year, and they sign Leonard Fournette, you're going to be searching all your teams. Where do I have Leonard Fournette? Where do I have Leonard Fournette? So you might as well take him. It's a 14th round pick. You're probably going to cut your 14th round pick anyway. So, I like that for sure.
So that pack of running backs we talked about, Adam, so many guys: Chubb, Taylor, Pollard, Henry, Barkley, Stevenson, Jacobs, Harris, Gibbs, all between 204 and 304. Whose name is missing? Breece Hall. Oh. And as soon as I'm sorry you can't watch the show we just aborted the other night, because as soon as we were getting into the early 3rd round, we're like, Breece Hall, and there he is at 310. We're grateful. I think I can speak as a team here that the 3 quarterbacks went, we were not going to be on any of those guys, Mahomes, Hurts, Allen, in the 5 picks in front of us. At this point, we're hoping for Jackson, but we took Hall hoping for Jackson at 403, which we did not get.
No, which sucks to be honest with you, but
well, I'll push back when you're done.
Okay. So Breece Hall, yeah, we were targeting him like, you know, since after Gibbs went, and the fact that like, so Gibbs goes like 6 picks earlier, and to be able to like hold out and get Breece Hall was awesome. I mean, Breece Hall, if the injury doesn't exist, where does he go? RB3, RB2, like somewhere in there. Like I get that the injury exists, but if all signs, everything you hear is he's ahead of schedule. The coach keeps saying he looks great. It's not the same thing as Dobbins. No one was saying Dobbins looked great except for Dobbins last year. Like, so it's different. So taking him here, it's going to be like the lowest he goes. If he plays in the, you know, I'm not saying they're going to play in the preseason games, but if he starts week 1, if the word is he's going to start these drafts in late August, early September, main events, Vegas, he's going to start creeping up into the mid-second round, I'm telling you. And so to be able to get him here, I think is really, really sweet, especially considering I've got him way ahead of Aaron Jones, who went to pick after him.
Well, let's just hope he doesn't play in the Hall of Fame game, Hall.
Please, God, please.
Against Cleveland. But it's funny, that's also week 17. The Hall of Fame game is a week 17 game, the Browns and the Jets. I brought that up. I remember bringing that up when we talked about Al Michaels, who is, you know, second year with Prime, Al.
Yep.
And the Browns and the Jets are the Thursday night game that week. I'm like, that's the first ever Monday Night Football game. I wonder if Al is thinking about that being his last game, but not that he worked the game in 1970. Anyway, so Hall at 310, Aaron Jones at 311. What a difference. I mean, what a difference. What a difference. Metcalf at 312, and then Jackson. At this point, I'm thinking like we'll probably get Jackson, but we don't. Keenan Allen 402. We take Travis Etienne over Ridley, Judy, Christian Watson, the receivers at 406. It was not going to be another tight end, and there was no other quarterback to do there. I am fine with that. I feel like the Jackson and Andrews are the most makeable stack at the top end of these drafts. I mean, it's tough to, well, Diggs and Allen did happen in this draft, but if you're on the back end, Andrews and Jackson can sort of fall into your lap there. And I bet there are going to be lots of teams with those 2 guys in this tournament. So I would have picked him too, Lamar, but I didn't really care that much. Like I was fine going in a different direction. And I think ETN, I mean, if 311 Adam picks Aaron Jones, or rather picks ETN, I don't want Aaron Jones.
No.
At 4-3. So I don't know what we do there. Maybe Judy. We have to scramble a little bit. The fact that it was ETN made the difference for me.
It's ugly. It's ugly if that's a situation. A couple things I want to point out. One, Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. A ton of people last year had the Mahomes-Kelsey stack, and it didn't matter because that's the stack you needed to have. It was so dominant. Not that many people this year are going to have Andrews, Lamar Jackson, and we'll get the numbers from Mojo when the tournament's done. He'll post all the numbers from this year and last year, and I'm sure we'll talk about it then. But there's not going to be as many Andrews, Lamar Jackson stacks as there was Kelsey Mahomes stacks last year. I don't think so. That I'm not worried about, and it might be the stack you need to have. Like it might be they're crushing it, you know, especially if. And now we're, you know, I'm thinking I just complained about the week 13 bye, but if you're able to sneak through week 13 with Jackson and Andrews, now there's a bunch of teams that have been washed out because they lost those guys because they couldn't win without them. Now they're out of the playoffs. Now that's going to dwindle down more teams. So if you can get through with Andrews and Lamar, I think that's super helpful. And then to go to your like point about like, well, what if ETN goes, we're not taking Aaron Jones, who do we take? I got to be honest. I've sat down and I'm not done yet. And people should really do this. Like this is how you kind of perfect your draft strategies and your draft, like how to do stuff. I hate the 3-4 turn, and it doesn't matter where, FFPC, FFWC, anywhere. But I can't just be like, I hate it and not improve. So what I'm doing is I'm sitting down with these ADPs and I'm just locking into like those specific players from I would say Metcalf, but Metcalf really goes at the 3-5 in these. Metcalf normally, I would have been fine with Metcalf. That would have been sweet. But I'm talking like the Deebo Samuels, Ridleys, Keenan Allens, Jerry Jeudy's, Christian Watsons. You can't just not draft anybody. You got to take somebody. It's not auction. So I've been like locking into these guys, like who, because you got to play out these scenarios, right? Like you just said, if Breece Hall's gone and Metcalf's gone, who do we take? I don't want to just close my eyes and throw a dart. Like I want to have conviction about some of these picks. So I would just tell everyone, man, lock into these to the route. Some people might have this figured out already. Oh, the 3-4 turn's easy, but I hate the 6-7 turn. Lock into those guys and figure out, or you just reach majorly at a player that goes a round and a half later who you really love, which you can do that too. But I just encourage people to get in there, get dirty with a lot of this stuff.
Okay, even before you said get dirty, I am physically turned on by this argument. So not to get weird, but so take it a step further. Who are the guys? And does it affect rounds 1 and 2? In your case, specifically, it's player take time. Who do you like there? And what would you have done at 4-3 if 3-11 had taken ETN?
At 4-3, if 3-11 was taking ETN and all those other, like Metcalf, Scott, like that's why it's so, like that would have been the perfect storm. If ETN's gone and Metcalf goes and Lamar, because normally, which is what's great about kind of this season, is you can always fall back on the quarterback, right? Let's just take the quarterback because we know outside of injury, quarterbacks aren't going to bust. And that's a lot of reason why I support early quarterback. But then you've got 4 going in the first basically 3 rounds. Like everyone's starting to do that too. So if it comes down to like, hey, Adam, who are you going to pick? Keenan Allen, Calvin Ridley, Judy, Watson. Honestly, I probably go Joe Mixon because
I don't mind. I don't mind.
The numbers say, I get no one loves Mixon, but the numbers say, but that's why like I know I'm probably taking a running back here. Worst case scenario, I'm going to go with an ETN or a Mixon or something like that. So I know I'm probably going at least 1, maybe 2 receivers early. That way I know that that the guys that I like the 3-4 turn are running backs.
I would have been easily talked into that. That draft I did Friday in Seattle, I picked Mixon at 402 and then Kenneth Walker at 602, by the way. So I like that one. I was texting you.
Yes.
But I was waking you up, the 3-hour difference. Yeah, 6 quarterbacks in the first 4 rounds. And Diggs Allen is not the only stack here. Mahomes Kelsey happened. Burrow Chase happened. Fields Moore happened as well. I'm not sure about Jalen Hurts. And then Jackson also. So there were a few stacks that definitely a priority here, I think. I mean, that's a priority in the Fantasy Pros tournament, in case you get there. We're trying to win the big money. And so it was for us, didn't happen. What did happen to us is, so now it's the end of round 4. We're coming up on 5-10, and we have 1 wide receiver. And I think we both agree, like it's tenuous.
Yeah.
So we make the decision, overall, we're going to start pounding that. McLaurin at 5'10". That was pretty good value, I think. You'll tell me. Kirk 603. Pittman 7'10", I think was very good, although he has been falling, and maybe at this time that wasn't anything special. And Burks at 803. You and I have texted about Burks when Hopkins signed with Tennessee, but not talked about it. You texted at the time, this is more than a week ago maybe, I asked you if you thought Hopkins crippled Burks, and you said yes. I don't know that I agree with that. I feel like he is still not a bad pick in this early 8th round. So McLaurin, Kirk, Pittman, Burks with Davante Adams. Did we do okay?
Yeah, I think we did okay. McLaurin goes 3 picks earlier. It's fine. I mean, whatever. You're in this. The thing about these rounds is the tiers of receiver. It's like a massive tier of receivers. So it's just like whoever falls to you, whatever works for your build. If you're trying to get stacks or correlations or whatever, if you're trying to target quarterbacks later that you like. So yeah, I'm fine with McLaurin. Kirk there, wide receiver 28. I mean, I really like what this offense can do. Talking to, Will Wilford 4, talking to those guys, the back-to-back champs at the Scott Fish Bowl. They're very Nick and Sean They like a lot of those Jags players. I don't mean to out you guys. Sorry if you guys are watching, but I
They can
trust a
take
lot.
it. They can
I
handle
trust
it.
a lot of the stuff that they say. Right, exactly.
Will Wolford 4. What was Dwight Drain 6 taken? I messed up the line. Sorry.
That's their next one. Brad Lamb 9.
Brad Lamb 9 is better.
But yeah, so I'm fine with all those guys. Burks, does it cripple Burks? Initially, I thought yes, but again, wide receiver 40. I don't. I could probably go find it when you're talking, but he wasn't going wide receiver 40 at the time. He was going wide receiver maybe like 30. So it's like you're getting 10 picks later. So I don't hate it going around where he's going. I do like. I would have loved Elijah Moore, and he was on it. We were going to take Elijah Moore for the record if Burks, if he didn't go the pick before us. So
not a big difference for me, but yes.
Yeah, I get it. They're both wide receiver 2s on their teams, but
we didn't have a quarterback yet either.
Correct. Yeah, we were talking about going the Deshaun Watson Browns route if we could have gotten Elijah Moore, but no, it's all about volume here, right? It's Davante Adams, McLaurin, Kirk, Pittman, Burks. We just need two or three of those guys to pop, and we're good to go.
Tennessee at New Orleans, week 1. I know you all know you're week 17. Tennessee at New Orleans. Who are we starting here? Indianapolis, week 1, home to Jacksonville. Kirk, Pittman, let it ride. Guess what? We ended up with Tua and Richardson. Tua Tagovailoa, Anthony Richardson in rounds 10 and 11. Here is how I remember it. Goat District, our buddies. Hill, Waddle. Okay. How many teams? You always do this, I think. When you're not to a quarterback yet, how many teams need one?
Yep.
Nobody was picking 2 in the first
right.
8-9 rounds in this thing. Nobody did. The teams that needed one were ourselves, the Goats, and then Team 11, who we were on top of.
Yeah.
So it was, our discussion was, let's see if they take Tua by round 9, and then we will. And we gave them, listen, Theo, we gave you numerous chances.
Right.
You had to have the second tight end first. I think they got cocky. They're like, those guys won't want Tua, but it goes with Andrews if we get close. And we both think, well, I don't know about you, actually. I've said it a lot. I'm not sure you agree. I think Tua is really good. The offense is good. The weapons are good. He was very good last year when he played. I mean, all the stuff you love, the PFF efficiency numbers and everything, all smile on him. So for me, I'm not sitting here, I'm not somebody on the other end of the spectrum going, one more concussion. Like, I feel like he is a good player and he is set up. So in rounds 9, 10, 11, I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's fine. I think he's Brock Purdy, right? He's a guy that's
wow.
He's a guy that can do what the coach wants him to do, and he's got elite weapons everywhere. Fine, wonderful. He's better than I thought he was going to be last year, but the concussion thing terrifies me. But I'm okay with it because we double tapped quarterback, which I'm okay with when you wait to take QB 10. Now it's okay to double tap QB and to get Richardson, a guy with massive upside, 2 quarterbacks with massive upside. Richardson, even if he can't hit the broadside of a barn, 800 yards rushing and 10 touchdowns is right in his wheel, right there. Like
conservative.
If he can do what Justin Fields, I love to hear that. If he can do what Justin Fields did last year, like wonderful. And so listen, you put our money where our mouth was. We took Richardson and then we just kept going, and you'll get to that. But like the great thing about Richardson, you don't have to stack him because most of his value is going to come on his rushing ability. But if he does pop throwing even a little, and listen, he's not going to throw for 50 yards a game. He's going to have games where he lets it rip. Again, the offensive coordinator there is from Philly. He knows what he's doing with the running quarter. Like, they got a good line. They got good weapons. Anyways, there's some scenarios there where certain games he pops. And so I'm okay with that with Tua. Who we start in week 1? Do we know?
I was just going to ask you that.
Do we know?
I had a whole thing prepared, like, hat tip to those of you who are like me in there changing the lineups all the time, the week 1 lineups. We picked A-Chain in 9 to sort of put off Team 11 from Tua. Here's our Miami stack. It's a running back, but there's no third wide receiver in Miami. Just give us that much more clout in picking Tua. So we got him in 10 and Richardson in 11. Miami at the Chargers in a game we'll all be watching because the Bills are playing Monday night. And the Colts are home to Jacksonville, and we have stack-eponymous opportunities. I don't know yet. Let's see what the props look like when we get to week 1. After that, so 2 quarterbacks were done. Andrews were done at tight end. I mean, it didn't have to be, but we were. And 5 receivers, running backs, Hall, ETN, A-Chain. It worried me. I wanted to caution against or sort of get insurance against the possibility of Hall missing the start of the season. And so our next 3 picks were running backs. Devin Singletary, who I had never drafted before Sunday night, Deontay Foreman, and Leonard Fournette. Fournette is and neither is Foreman or Singletary even, any sort of guarantee of week 1 points. But if Hall misses week 1, we'll need somebody to play there, unless it's A-Chain. I mean, I wanted to, try to best position us for that possibility.
Yeah, and then that kind of probably makes our quarterback decision easier. Like if we start A-Chain, we're probably going to start Tua, although quarterback running back stacks don't correlate really brilliantly. But if A-Chain's their number 1 back, or if he's their pass catching back,
but that's going to be tough, Adam. That's going to be tough to start him week 1. Like the preseason, everybody's going to play it so carefully with their veterans. Is anybody going to have any idea what Miami wants to do at running back by the time that game kicks off? Like
maybe.
Maybe.
I mean, again, we could look at the props. The other thing is too, and we'll talk about this throughout the year, and we always talk about this, everyone's going to have their weekly projections out, and we have some of the best, some of the best weekly projection rankers around. Some of them are right here. Bradley Stalder, Billy Muzio, great guys. And we're going to look at all this stuff, but it's like at the end of the day, it's a coin flip between a lot of guys. And do I want to, bench a Tua or an A-Chain and see Tua throw a 60-yard swing pass to A-Chain and have him take it to the house? Like what? Like that I don't want to see, so that we can start Devin Singletary, anyways, we'll talk more.
Wow. That has been sitting. That has been sitting inside you for a long time.
That's not
Finally, Adam gets a chance to take a shot at Devin Singletary. It's been months.
It's been too long since I took it. Thank God I haven't had to talk about Devin Singletary. But he's not going to catch. The last thing Singletary is going to do is catch a 60-yard swing pass and take it to the house. So he's never done it. He never will.
But A-Chain completely has that in his game. I mean, that is exactly
that's what he does.
He is speed, and the Dolphins are speed, and that's why the Dolphins are so much fun for the running backs. Like all of them could be the one, but A-Chain is so much juice.
Tune in next week as we set our week 1 lineups for all the fans out there. Let's go.
We'll set a week 1 lineup, but we did not agree on who was going to manage this team.
That's right. We didn't agree. We'll see. We'll have to see what the fans say. We'll have to spin the wheel of death. Spin the wheel of death.
Well, our last receiver after round 7 that doesn't play for Indianapolis is Treylon Burks in round 8. And then that was it. Pierce late, Downs late. The night got late. I'm already being destroyed by bugs, and all the excuses are pouring out. But I got our Fournette and Elliott just in case. We cut him. Pierre Strong, a nice handcuff, maybe. Kicker and defense at the end. Richardson, Pittman, Pierce, Downs. Adam, what's your prediction for Indianapolis? Like if you had to put your money on it, your skin in the game, so to speak.
Of course.
What do you think happens there? Like, is there any real chance Indy and Richardson are so competent that even 2 of the receivers are relevant?
No, but I think that here's my thing. I think Richardson's game is going to be running the ball and throwing the deep ball. And I think that works well for him fantasy wise. And it works well for, I think Alec Pierce is honestly their deep threat. So if I was going to stack him with one, I'd rather have Pierce in round 15 than Pittman in round 7. Now Pittman went as wide receiver 38 and he's our wide receiver 4. Fine. What we want is one of those guys to emerge, and then we cut probably Josh Downs. Josh Downs is good for best ball, probably more, but fine. It's going to be fine. Again, he's our 17th round pick. Most people are going to cut their 17th round pick. So that's where my money would be on Richardson's rushing upside, his deep throwing, and Alec Pierce probably not outscoring Pittman, but value wise will probably more outperform his draft value than Michael Pittman does. But I do want to circle back quick as well. I apologize to the back-to-back champs. Richie James drafted by Will Wilford in the last round. And they also, so Clyde Edwards-Helaire, people, another thing people want to keep in mind, the free look, the Thursday night game, you get a free look. You don't have to set your Thursday night lineups. So if you draft a Chief or a Lion and they go off, you can start them. If they don't go off, you can bench them, whatever. So that's kind of a cool thing for them. But of course, it would be them that would take Richie James.
You got to love it when somebody apologizes for disrespecting someone else for drafting Richie James. That's the best. And so what else is there? Mostert, by the way. We should offer a trade.
Yeah, of course. Of course. You know, I'm in. Mostert's excited. Hey, also news today. Mostert's excited. Ready? He's excited because he's going to be involved more in the passing game. He's been running routes out of the bag. So here we go. It's that season. It's running back / receiver. I'm playing receiver season.
Does he know the schedule for next year yet? Like he knew the schedule last year when they said they were playing San Francisco in week 17 and they were not?
Oh, no.
Has Mostert's source at the league office for the schedule, abandoned him at this point?
I know. Listen, I know this is the deep end, but are you on any week 1 defenses or kicker, anything like that?
Absolutely.
What do you got?
So I had been on New Orleans against Tennessee. Tennessee looks a little better with Hopkins. Baltimore is easy, but Baltimore goes like top 5-ish.
Yep.
Among defenses, they have Houston at home in week 1. And I picked Green Bay for us after you had attended to your poor wife who has broken her foot, and we're all very sad about that. And Adam is just lifting so much more weight these days, caring for Jamie, who he has yet to introduce me to. I picked Green Bay in round 20. They are home. They're at Chicago in that first game. And there's some talk that Green Bay might have a very good defense, and I'm sort of on them, and we don't have any Bears. So the thought did go into it, yes.
Fine. Wonderful. Yeah. Another team, I think Washington has Arizona. Yes.
Week 1?
Yeah, I think so. I can. Sure. Yeah. Right. So I think that's a defense that when I have to take a defense, I usually take them. I think it's Washington, Arizona. So
I was talking on WGR today about how I don't think there is even one quarterback competition in the league happening right now. And that is probably very unusual. Like it's the beginning of training camp. The top 3 rookies, I think, are all starting, Adam. Strong, Young, Strong, and Richardson. I think they're all starting.
Yeah. What about the Niners, Mike?
Purdy.
It's definitely Purdy.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cleared to start camp, healthy on time. 100%. Yep. Purdy, Howell in Washington, Ritter in Atlanta. I'm thinking Mayfield in Tampa Bay. And then, I don't know, Arizona is sort of an asterisk because Murray is injured. He would, of course, be their starter. There is not really one. That's got to be, I mean, I haven't tracked this. It's got to be very unusual for there not to be one interesting quarterback room drama, in the preseason or training camp. But I don't think there is.
What about Atlanta? Like definitely Ritter. Yeah.
Definitely Ritter. More chance Brissett in Washington than Heineke in Atlanta. But it's going to be Ritter and Howell.
Yeah. I think it's because a lot of these teams are more willing now to just throw rookie quarterbacks in there because they know, like, listen, the guy's not going to learn sitting on the bench. So let's throw him in there. And the quarterbacks are more versatile nowadays. Like they're not statues back there. So like, okay, if it doesn't work out, if he's developing as a passer, we'll just design some run plays. That'll get the offense moving. And like Richardson, like, listen, they're going to be more efficient than you'd think because on 3rd and 2, they can quarterback sneak it for 2 plays and keep the chains moving. And so, yeah, I think there's different outs now for these really athletic quarterbacks where they're not going to sit back there like David Carr and get crushed 70 times behind a Texans offensive line that ruins his career. So yeah, no, I like it.
Has the deep end ever sounded older than when Adam referenced Derek Carr?
By
the way, see the helmet? David Carr. Of course. Yeah. Again, I botched the line. See the helmet tonight?
Raiders? Biletnikoff?
Absolutely.
Oh,
To you and your dad.
my
His
dad's favorite player
ever. We're going to Canton in a couple of weeks for the Expo.
I can't freaking wait.
Fred Bolitnikoff, Super Bowl 11 MVP. Want to thank Theo Greminger and the guys at Player Profiler for setting up crossover week and this Fantasy Pros draft. Want to congratulate our friends Alex and Dave at the FFPC for our $350 donation to their tournament. Maybe we'll win, but they did get $350 from us, without too much pushback. That's fine. That's how it goes. Adam, where can our very loyal viewers and listeners find you? I'm not saying they should come to your house, but like, where are you in social media? What do you talk about?
Sure.
Do you do pictures of yourself? Is flag football still happening? The kids, the soccer?
Oh my God. They know not come to my house, but Theo, I think, called my house phone at 3 a.m. after we took all those dolphins from him. So,
oh no, he really did.
He messaged us, was not happy about that. Take that.
No,
Theo.
that's fine to do.
Yeah. And so he said, I think we're potting or streaming with Theo this week. That's going to be fun. Crossover week, Allen Iverson crossover week. But, yeah, you can find me obviously Adam_Krautwurst. You can find me working, at the deep end. I'm doing stuff over at Full-Time Fantasy, FWC. I'm all over the place. So 3 to 4 pods a week, loving it. And listen, draft season in full swing. Find me in these draft streets now. We got Pros versus Joes coming up.
Oh.
Hey, and we'll probably have a big announcement maybe next week, Mike. Big announcement.
Yeah,
maybe.
That's right. That's right. Pros versus Joes. We're in the last one, the last live one, and that is next week's show.
Yes. Oh, perfect. Wonderful.
That'll be a 10 o'clock Eastern draft in the Pros versus Joes tournament.
Can't wait. What pick are we?
All right. Five. I think 5.
Yep.
Which is the best.
Absolutely.
Not picking Andrews at 5.
No.
Chad Schroeder picked Andrews Pitts, top 2 picks, or second and third last year, and finished second. Won our league, finished second.
He gets it.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. Spotify, iTunes, YouTube. Please follow Deep End FF1 on Twitter. Subscribe, like, all of that. That helps us and it helps other people who like the show, like maybe you do, find it. Because that's always a struggle out here, and we're trying to keep our, our place.
Keep our mortgages paid,
So everything. See you next week, Pros versus Joes. Thanks for watching and listening. Mike, Adam, good night.
See you guys.